Hey guys, what's going on? Alphabet here. Welcome back to another episode of Satisfactory, where in between episodes I've done a little bit of work on my factory itself. But don't worry, nothing logistically has changed. I've just added columns and walls and a roof, and that's about it. I have also been looking around for some biomass, so I got quite a bit, and now we're pretty good on biofuel, even though I might want to replenish that soon. So I might have to do some more biomass shopping. So it looks like I'm about to be out. So I'm just going to fill up these biomass burners real quick. And we'll just take some from my chainsaw. And that should be plenty, actually. Not plenty. I think, it takes quite a bit to fill all these up. But that should be good for a little bit, at least. So I'll just go around collecting biomass every once in a while. I also found 2 more power slugs and overclocked these constructors right here to match the output of the miner. That way we could get more concrete more efficiently, just run power a bit better. And I did that for both constructors so that they would both run at optimal efficiency. Okay, here we have a pretty unofficial front door to the factory. This just gets you in, right, and facing the assembler right here. We've gathered ourselves quite a bit of reinforced iron plates, so that should be good for now. We can go ahead and delete these belts. We don't need them anymore. Okay. Now, we're at a point here where I've been running around and doing so many errands that my factories are backing up, so I'm gonna want to get that issue solved really quick. And I'm thinking here that I'm gonna make this building 2 stories, and we're gonna have my assembler story, or assembly floor, just above. I might place a little gap for logistics in there. Right, so before we get too carried away, we're gonna need to place the space elevator before we can do anything. So we just need some more wire and some more rods, and then we should be good for that. That's not too hard to get. We have a full bin of rods right here. It should solve my problem without an issue. Just top up. 600 should be plenty. Yep. And I'll have some to spare, and then I need 1500 wire, which hopefully I can fit. Let's see. Yeah, plenty. Alright, sweet. So I'm just making myself a little platform here to place the space elevator on. Hopefully it's big enough. I think I zooped out 10 that way on that part. So let's just see. Oh yeah, plenty of space. Let's put the front of it facing us. Actually, let's face it this way. That looks good. Okay. This is so big. Not quite sure how to place this. Okay, it looks like I'm just a little off, but really it's okay. It's fine. We're not gonna be, we can do measurements later. Alright, let's watch this. Okay, so here we are at the hub with our space elevator now in the background, and I can place all of the resources into the hub to get the Mark II logistics milestone, and that's going to give us Mark II lifts, stackable poles, and Mark II belts, which should be pretty useful. Can double our efficiency currently. Just gonna launch that and should be ready to go. And then there we are.
Milestone reached. Improved versions of conveyor belts and conveyor lifts are now accessible. To encourage additional verticality, conveyor poles now have a stackable variant.
Sweet, conveyor poles now have a stackable variant. And that means that I can stack conveyor poles on top of each other without making them clip. And then these go up as well. Should be a good thing to have. Okay, so I'm just figuring out what I want to do up here, but I think in order to do that, I should probably look at the recipes I need to make. And because I have plenty of, you know, okay, so I'm just getting started up here and trying to figure out what I want to do. And I think the first thing I need to figure out is rotors, because I have plenty of reinforced iron plates. So what I'm going to do probably is make rotors over here. And let's just see what they need real quick. Alright, they need rods and screws. So, okay. They need 20 screws per minute. So that means I can disconnect 2 of my screw machines, actually. And that'll give me 20 screws per minute. 20 rods per minute. Okay, so just in order to get started with the assembly process for smart platings, first I need to get started assembling rotors and reinforced iron plates. And I need it to be a permanent for now solution, not just messily thrown in the main factory. So I want this top floor to be for assembling both rotors and smart plating. And I think what I'm going to do is make a logistics floor just above, maybe 2 walls high, and then the floor where we make everything. And that's going to make rotors, reinforced iron plates, and then hopefully smart plating as well. And it shouldn't be too far before we can launch our first space elevator package, which hopefully we'll do this episode. I'm going to try and reduce the episode length just a little bit, but the first thing we got to do is find somewhere to, well, bring up our rods and our screws, and I have a place for it. I have an idea. I'm going to enclose this kind of top area in a wall. I think I'm going to leave that area down there. And basically what I'm going to do is, and what I've done in between clips is I've just combined the machines all onto one belt because, well, I have 120 belts now instead of just 60. So I wanted to use those. In fact, I can change those. Alright, so now I have 120 belts just on my hotbar. And I'm using them to put screws into containers, and I'm going to use at least one of these containers to go up and create rods, and I believe the other container to go up and create plates, because I'm pretty sure plates require screws. Yep. And you know what? I can't believe I just deleted that. So in order to make plates, I need 60 screws and 30 plates, which is perfect because there's 120 screws going into this, so that just means I need to up plate production, which really shouldn't be too hard. I might just have to add another constructor or two and expand my smelters like I was wanting to do anyways. So I think the plans for the near future here are double our smelting and increase production. Just kind of expand the factory on it as a whole. And you know, I might even just ignore these for now, not even overclock those miners, just because what we have is fine. However, as I'm sure you all have noticed, the factory is currently powered down, and that is just because, well, in between episodes when I was running around doing things, I actually ran out of biofuel. So most of my generators are full up right now, except for these two. These two are running low, which should be okay. But basically what I wanted to do was just throw in some biomass into my storage containers here, let these fill up with biofuel, and only run my little biofuel plant here. So basically all of my power is designated to only making biofuel. So for now, I'm going to be using very little, but making quite a bit. And I think what I'm going to do is quickly just draw up a to-do list and make a couple of plans as to what my next steps are going to be. At the same time, probably getting more biomass just to make into biofuel so that I'm good for the future. Okay, so I've just been doing a little bit of planning, math, and work here. So what I have is my rotor assembler down. That's right, just one rotor assembler, because I don't think I'm going to have enough screws to support any more than one. I only have 120 screws per minute on that belt, and well, that's only going to get me one assembler for my rotors. I can overclock that assembler to take all 120 screws off that belt, but I'm only going to have one assembler. And I need that to power on before I can get to the other assemblers I have to make, because I'm out of rotors, so I can't place any. So I'm just going to power everything on, and here's the logistics I've done, by the way. I've just brought up the screws and the rods, and I've funneled them over with floor holes, and then I've brought them up here and basically just took them up to this to this assembler. And then for the power, I've just routed it along the ceiling and then down to the story below, and I just kind of hooked it up to one of my grids. So here we are. Let's power everything back up. There we go. And might as well hook up my limestone concrete machines. Hopefully that doesn't overdraw power. Oh, we're still good. And look at that, 2300 biofuel for us to use. And all of our burners have around 190, so we should be good for a bit. Okay, I've also expanded the smelters down here, just so I could fully use at least one miner, which I now have two of my power shards in this miner, and I have this line with 2 extra working smelters. So if we just take a look down here in our logistics floor, this container here, is what our rotors are going to come out in, but I don't think I set the recipe, as I always forget to do. So let's go up and set that recipe. And this is just some temporary concrete ramps for now, because I don't have the catwalks to make a catwalk up here, but I did just add a walkway from the hub to here so that I could get in the first place. Okay, we're going to set the rotor recipe, and we can delete this iron here. Alright, here we go. And we should have more than enough screws per minute to support this, and more than enough rods. I think we're making 60 rods per minute, so we have enough to support 3 assemblers with our rods, but a third of the amount we need to support our screws. Which basically just means I need to grab these 2 nodes, ship them in, smelt them with the others, and make them into screws. And that should give me enough. But the problem is the plates also use screws, so I mean, I'm gonna have to use way more anyways, but I'm fine, I think, with 2 plate machines at least. But we'll have to see. Here we go. This miner is mining at 120 per minute now, which means it's gonna be a full belt. It was gonna get backed up on that little spot. That would have been horrible. That would have taken forever to figure out. Okay, now if we check our storage container, we should see some rotors. Yes. Okay, so here I've just placed 2 assemblers for reinforced iron plates, which I'm just going to set the recipe now so that I don't forget, and that should give us 10 per minute. We just need 60 iron plates, which we have 80. and 120 screws, which we meet perfectly. So this shouldn't be an issue. All we have to do is just hook the belts up, which really also shouldn't be an issue, and figure out what we're going to do for the smart plating, which I think I might just make straight down the middle, because I don't think I'm going to have very big lines of this. I might after I hook up these two nodes, but I think I'm good for now. Okay, so I've hooked up my assemblers to power and to their input, so now they're working away, making me some reinforced iron plates. Hopefully, that means we're one step closer to making smart plating. We just gotta grab some supplies real quick. 45 rotors already, and 29 plates already. So the last thing we have to do up here today is smart plating, and that will be a result of both of these processes. So first I want to see just how much I need, and I'm thinking maybe I'll face this one this way. Smart plating. I need 2 reinforced iron plates and 2 rotors, which means I can comfortably have 2 assemblers on that. Let me just check to see if that's centered real quick. It's pretty centered, it's not bad. Okay, so I found the dead center of this factory now, and I've just placed my assemblers. This is enough to fuel both of these. And what am I gonna get? 2 per minute and 2 per minute. So I'm gonna get 4 per minute from one of these, which also makes 4 per minute, but I believe I'm gonna be using all of my rotors, so I am gonna want to up my screw production, but I'll do that in between episodes. It's just adding to my constructors over here. It's really not that big of a deal. If there's something that requires major update, I'll put it in the next video. So for this video, I just really want to quickly hook up these assemblers to these so that I can get smart plating up and running as soon as possible. So I'm just going to place down my floor holes and get everything hooked up. I think this is going to be a shorter format video than last time. I'm brand new to this, so I'm just experimenting as I go. No really, you know, I don't really know what works just yet for me, so that's what I'm experimenting with. Thought maybe long format would work. Now I'm going to see if short format is better. Okay, and there we are. All of our inputs and outputs are connected to conveyor lift floor holes so that I can access it on the bottom. Okay, so we have our rotors coming out here and our plates coming out here. So I think what might be best to do is just to loop the plates around to the back so that they kind of just are out of the way. That way we can easily hook our rotors up. Okay, so I've now hooked up the input and not yet the outputs, but I have them ready to go to both the reinforced iron plates and the rotors. So now it should be at least able to produce, but it's not going to be producing yet because there's no power to it. So let's actually do that. I think what I'm going to do here is just cheat and hook it up to these. There we go. Now these have power, and they're going to be moving and grooving with our smart plating. And in the meantime, I thought we'd take a look at this milestone, and it looks easy enough. So why not go ahead and crack it open? We'll just launch that. There we go.
Milestone reached.
Now we don't
Several
have to worry
buildings
about
aimed
that
at factory
always being there.
traversal can now be accessed in the build menu. Caution is recommended during use of these products.
I don't think I'll ever use these products, but it's okay. Maybe the landing pads every once in a while. It looks like everything's going good, and it looks like we should have some outputs. There we go. We have our smart plating, and I've just hooked it up to a storage container so we can watch it go along into storage. Pretty simple logistically, just a couple mergers and splitters. It looks more complicated with the elevators, but if there were an assembler here, it would basically just be, it'd be more complicated actually. It's kind of just shooting off. Here we have the logistics, very simple indeed, not too complicated. So I've also added to the smelting room that I showed, but there is an issue since I need to add both of these iron nodes there. I'm gonna have to either expand it in the way of the space elevator, so I might have to move it, or this way, in which I don't know if I really want to do that, just because there's no reason. I just don't want it this way. I don't think it looks nice, really. I kind of like my bridge that I have here. So I might just add a separate room, and that'll take care of these two. Something here that goes out that way. And, you know, I think that'll look nice, one main factory with a couple of little mini factories just dotted about, kind of, or extensions of the same building, just smaller areas. So that's what I'm going to do with those in between episodes. But for now, we have to wait for our smart plating to be done so that we can launch the space elevator and look at our next milestones. So, since we have time, I think I'm going to actually start bringing these iron nodes into miners and then over here so that we can get started with screws or increase screw production. I just have to make myself a couple of portable miners, which I should be able to do with my equipment workshop that actually I have not yet placed down, so I might want to do that. This actually looks like a really nice area for it. Okay, so I've just done some experimentation about where I'm going to place down my smelters for these two iron nodes, and I've decided in this area, and I'm just gonna layer it 5, 5, 5, 5, and it'll just be a nice little building out here, and then I'll just bring both of those inputs in. But I ran out of reinforced iron plates just there, so I decided to come check on those, and well, I have 107 of these, which means 107 of the smart platings, which means that now I am able to jump down here and launch our first space elevator part, which we can do from the control panel. So we're just going to seal. Nice and chunky. I like it. There we go. we've now sent our first space elevator part up into space. I believe that means we can now check our hub and see what we have new. Okay, so here we are at the hub, ready to look at our next two tiers, tiers 3 and 4. Looks like we finally get coal power, or we should once we up our rotor production. And I think that'll be the first thing that I do, to be honest, just to get away from these. So next up, the next episode, definitely going to be coal power. That will... I know there's some coal over there on that hill that's right next to a pond. That's where I'm going to go. So let's see. Vehicular transport, that'll be useful. Steel. That'll give me windows. And then we get the Xenobasher. Alright, and Mark II miners, that's what's going to get us to 300 per minute on each of these miners. Fully overclocked. Hyper tubes, that'll get us around quicker. We can use those for elevators. And we get blueprints. And then Mark III logistics, which are going to almost max out what we can carry, what we can produce with Mark II miners. But that'll also get us industrial storage containers and power storage, because now we're gonna have automated power, which I'm excited for. We need to set up our copper factory actually to be able to make copper sheets for pipes. So that's something we gotta do now too. So since I need a little bit more for the episode, I think I've decided that I'm going to expand my factory in this episode, where I add more smelters and more constructors to make more screws. And hopefully, since I'm making excess plates, I'll have those being kind of produced in the background as they back up. I'm just going to use Mark I plates where possible. Okay, so I've just ran around and set up all of these. Not all of them are going to be working, only half of them are, and it's going to be, I believe this row and this row are going to be working. These two are not. That's just because our miners can't handle it yet, neither can our belts. I guess actually our miners can handle it, our belts just quite can't. So that's where we're at right now. It's just half of our smelters being used, but that's okay. That's 10 more smelters that we weren't using, so it works out just fine. Because, yeah, both of those are double overclocked. So that has 2 power shards in it, and that one has 2 power shards in it. You can't see that, though. I just have the belts all set up and ready to go, and the 2 that we'll be producing actually go up. So these 2 are going to be the ones with iron on them. I think I'm going to bring them around, just kind of for show, for no other reason. I could just shoot them over there, but I want to bring them this way, and I'm going to shoot them through this wall. And then probably either next to these or just straight up on top of them. I can do that and shoot them across. But we will see. So what I'm gonna do is just wall everything in so that we can put a ceiling over it. That way we can use our wall outlets rather than our power poles. They're the same price, it's just wall outlets are easier to manage, make look nice. Alright, there we go. I've just hooked up power, and I believe that is everything to wait for. Sorry, I believe that's everything that we were waiting for, which means we are now rolling. We just gotta make sure our belts are upgraded all the way. And that is double overclocked. Looks like this one's good to go. And we have iron coming out already. Sweet. If we just wait a minute here, we'll have iron on both belts. And there we are, there's our iron flowing out. It's just gonna fill up real quick, so let's get these belts on the way. We have to skip this one. We have to skip this foundation and go to this foundation. And we don't have to worry about the lower belts just yet, but I do want to at least get the poles in there. A little problem I didn't address is this. This actually spits out right into our other smelting area, so I might actually want to just go straight out this wall. And that is what I will do. Okay, now that I know I'm going to be on this foundation, I'm just going to expand my roof over and all my walls so that we can kind of just keep the whole thing under one warehouse kind of roof. That's the idea with these. They're kind of a warehouse. They're kind of here to air out the smoke coming from the smelters. There we go. We have all of our belts hooked up, and that means our iron should be coming in. Yep, look at it, our iron ingots. And it's going to be going up here, actually. And then through this wall. And from here, we're going to, I guess, add another row of constructors. Remember, this was off of one set of two. And we have a whole, like, we have twice as much, so we need twice as many constructors, which I don't think we actually have room for. So I might just send it to a new room entirely and make like a screw factory for purely screws. But if I did that, it'd have to be off to the left. So instead of bringing these belts this way, although I still can, I could just expand this way and make screws over here, one big screw area. I need to get more concrete before I can do that, however. Okay, so I've just been doing some work here. I finished up this smelting facility, or at least half of it, meaning half of it is going to be working at first, and that's just because we don't have the belts to run it all the way efficiently. But I've also just been doing some work actually down here inside of the factory. Quite a bit has changed. I've also went around and just gathered some power shards so that I could overclock these miners. And essentially what I've done is just grouped up 8 machines, 8 constructors, 4 times. So one of them is going to be making only rods, and that's going to just go up to plates, I believe, or rotors. It's going to go up to rotors. And the other ones are all going to be dedicated to making screws. And as you can see here, I've deleted my current screw machines, and I've just, in the logistics floor, I've switched around these two. So this one's going to be feeding reinforced iron plates for a minute, just so that I can have those being made in the background. That's really the only reason the factory is currently powered. But over here is where I'm going to be making all of my screws, and hopefully I've mathed the machines out right. Let's see, this should be 6 times 3, which is 18 total constructors, which actually I don't know if that will be enough. Each one of these needs 120 screws per minute to run. Sorry, each one of these needs 120 rods per minute to run, and I think I have 3 groups making 120 rods per minute, so you know what? It should be fine, actually. It should be perfect. But all I gotta do is just throw in these constructors, add some walls, and ensure that everything is at the correct speed. And then I'll do all the belt work, hook it all up to power, and we'll see it running. And then we'll be having a truly ridiculous amount of screws per minute. I think we'll be having 40 times 16. Yeah, so we're going to have 640 screws per minute, which is enough to almost fill up a Mark V belt. It's actually too much for Mark IV belts, which we haven't even gotten to Mark III belts yet. So we're going to have 4 separate belts. If there's 4 groups here. Let's see. Actually, we're going to need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 separate belts. Because each of these constructor rows makes 120. Okay, so just doing some math here, it looks like I actually need 3 more constructors jutting out this way to fully use all of my belts, but I don't really want to do that. So what I think I'm gonna do instead is just see how I can work it out to have these only taking what they need, which would only be 2 belts, I believe, actually. Okay, so these only need 2 belts to actually run for now. So I'm just gonna set up splitters for the future to split them to where they need to go. So even with only 2 belts coming in here, we're still gonna need to add another row of constructors because we're still not using our rods to maximum efficiency with only 3 rows, which is what I had, which means I need another row. So here we are, adding another row of constructors. And that should take care of everything. Okay, there we go. We have 4 rows of 3 constructors each. Sorry, we have 8 rows of 3 constructors, 4 groups of 6, and that should take care of our screw needs for now. I grossly underestimated the amount of screws I would need. Alright, here's the deal. I have a massive factory here, especially massive for starting out. Not quite, numbers wise, but sheer size wise, I think I've built a pretty big thing here. We have copper over there. We have the main iron under here. We have smelting over here. And then just over here we have our brand new screw factory and our plate factory, with our rod factory being the only one left in the actual building, except for copper, but that doesn't really matter to me right now. It's going to in just a second, but it looks like we have exhausted all of our screws for plate production, which means these are the last plates we're gonna get. Luckily, I've just finished up the screw portion of this factory right here. I think it looks pretty nice, just kind of goes with the brutalism of everything else, really. I gotta get some wall pieces for that right there, and I might change up the style of that a little bit. But this is our factory, nearly completed. Not everything is quite done yet. I might even add on to that screw factory, as insane as that might be, just adding a bit more. Because right now these rods aren't being used for anything. But that's alright. Let me just go check on my screws and promptly bring them back in so they can start being used again. Okay, well, we didn't get as much done today as we did last episode, but that's okay, because I'm trying to slow down a little bit, just keep things rolling at a steady, slower pace than they were going before. In between episodes here, I'm just going to do a little bit more in order to upgrade all of the belts I have and get everything working at full efficiency, because currently not everything is working at full efficiency, which is a problem. I want everything to be up there. It's just that I have to wait for these assemblers to get rolling. That way I have enough reinforced iron plates to get everything rolling at the proper rate. Because right now only 60 per minute belts. Because right now only Mark 1 belts, because right now there's a few places that need Mark 2 belts that only have Mark 1 belts, like this for instance. I think looks like it's fine. But downstairs for sure there's a couple places that could use Mark 2 belts in order to actually get everything up and running. But for now, I'm just going to leave this as it is. I'll show you guys what I'm going to do in terms of downstairs. So down here, what I have is these 2 groups of constructors sending their rods out, and those rods are going to be going over here and then this way into the screw construction area. This rod belt gets split into 2, and this rod belt also get split into two. That's because each group only needs 30 per minute, which means we have fully supplied constructors. Next, I have all of them meeting up and then going up a tier. The first four come meet up and then go up. This one just kind of goes up. This one's going to cut across and then meet up with the rest of them. So I'm going to have a group of 8 belts here. I might want to compress it into 3, but it doesn't really go into 3 nicely. I'd have to add one more, which I don't feel like doing. So I have 8 belts here that are going to run this way. They're going to come this way and then get shot up. And then up here I have the rest of my factory. Basically all of those screws are going to be going into rotors, reinforced iron plates, and probably exported because we have vehicles coming up. I do have quite a bit planned for the next episode. Next episode I plan on doing a few of these milestones, getting power automated just so that I can get off of biofuel. That'll probably be the entirety of next episode. We'll be doing coal and probably vehicular transport. Then, shortly after, we have basic steel production and, just stuff that's going to get us going a lot quicker. That means pretty soon here, our world is going to be expanded to, well, not just the rocky desert, but probably the sandy shores, the golden shores, whatever you call them. Golden shores over here that have 2 pure oil nodes and 2 normal nodes. So that's where we're going to be headed next. But that is not until we get oil unlocked. In fact, next is going to be coal, which I still consider to be in the rocky desert, and that's just up here. So it's a little bit, bad quality, but in between these 2 stone pillars there are 3 pure coal nodes, which we can use for power for now while we get everything up and running. But in between episodes I'm just gonna build some more of the factory, do some more beautifying, maybe change some things around a little bit. I'll let you know, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Alphabet out. Here we are, guys, in my end card yet again. I just wanted to thank you for watching my second video in this series. I just want to ask you to like, subscribe, and check out the links in my description. I have a Discord and a Patreon. I don't expect you to go to Patreon, but Discord, I do have a Discord. I just made it. I'm very proud of it. I'm actually in it right now instead of whatever I had going on yesterday. Or last video. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.